care sector has quite literally found itself on the front line in the battle against COVID-19. Today, we're talking about how the team at Valorum Care Group have coped during the crisis, and I'm joined by the group's CEO, Robin Sidebottom. So Robin, let's take you back to March and the day that the PM announced the lockdown. What were your initial thoughts?
There was a mixture of thoughts, if I'm being completely honest. Although we sort of talked about it and we prepared for it, I think there's a little bit for me of this is going to be a bit of a nightmare to manage, it's going to be difficult, but hopefully it'll be over in a few weeks. And I don't think at that particular time, although we were prepared, I don't think I've really sort of got the enormity of the challenges we were going to face. And I think, if I'm honest, it was probably more the longevity of the challenges we were going to face. You know, I knew that was going to be a few weeks of an issue, and we were planned for it. But I think when it went on beyond that first few weeks, it sort of then became, this is really real, and this is really a challenge, and this is really going to have a significant impact on our business and the people that live within our services, and also the staff that work for us. So it was a sort of a, I guess I'd sort of talk about as a slow burn. I think sometimes when you hear things are coming, you don't always sort of, you go, oh, when it comes, it'll be fine, or we're ready for it. And I think it took me a couple of weeks to just really get into the space of this is serious and it's not going away anytime soon.
So you mentioned that you were prepared. How prepared do you think you were for what was coming?
I think we were ultra prepared, to be fair. The first conversation we ever had about COVID was, I remember the day specifically well, it was the 15th of January, and one of my colleagues sent me an email and said, I know COVID's not come yet and that it might not come, but do you think it'd be good for us to get something out to the business to remind people of what to do if it does come and just get prepared for it? And I think privately in my head, I'm thinking this is probably a little bit premature, and I'm not sure that COVID will come, but we should do it because it's the right thing to do. I remember that very first day of the exchange of information, and we got something out to the business. As it sort of moved from sort of January into February, and it became sort of, this is coming, it's definitely coming, and we think it could be quite a challenge. We swung into action probably the first, second week in February in regards to PPE, in regards to what happens if we have to close down, thinking of a head office perspective, from a support network perspective, what happens if this all happens? We have our business continuity plans, as any business does, but we really swung into action with refreshing that, updating that, and then looking at the sort of the what if scenarios. And so things like, we ordered PPE, we made sure we got supplies of PPE centrally. Most people work from laptops, for example, but we have quite a few desktops within the office, so we ordered a whole load of laptops to get them configured so that essentially we could close the office and carry on as normal. And I think I mentioned previously around sort of the first few weeks and how we sort of coped with it. I think because we were so prepared, when it did hit us, there was probably a sense of, well, this might not be too bad, but also because we're prepared for it and we think we've covered every base, then actually, if it is going to be bad, we're okay because we've done the right things and we've done what needs to be done. So I think the preparation was absolutely crucial, and at no point through the whole of the pandemic have we ever been in a situation where we've had no PPE or we've had any loss of service or any particular challenges. And when we have had COVID in some of our services, which sadly has happened, it's been managed amazingly well, and the credit has to go to the whole of the business. We can prepare, we can plan, we can put things in place, we can do everything that needs to be done, but we rely on the teams, the managers taking this really seriously and keeping it at bay. And I have to say, from the things that we did, everybody listened to what we said and everybody took it seriously and did an amazing job in what were very, very difficult circumstances for everybody. So yeah, it's been a challenging time, and I have to keep reminding people we prepared for it in January, we planned for it, we've done all the work to prepare and run through COVID. It's not over yet, and I think that's one of the challenges for us, is to remind people we can't be complacent and this has not gone away, so let's remain vigilant as we move forward.
I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. It sounds like you were very well prepared, but kind of looking back over the last 6 months, is there anything you'd have done differently?
I'm not sure there is, to be fair. I'm not sure there is. I think in every part of business, I think you should always look back and you should always say, I should have done that differently. Maybe we should have done this, in hindsight, we'd have done that. I think when it comes to COVID, it's probably one of the few things, and very few things, that I would say as a CEO of a large organisation, that I look back and go, do you know what? I think we did a pretty amazing job. I think we did astoundingly well. We followed the rules, we followed the procedures, we had the PPE, we kept the people we supported involved in what we were doing, we kept relatives and families involved. And I honestly think, hand on heart, there's nothing that we could have done differently in that whole scenario. I think it was managed and executed in a pretty amazing way. And the only thing that I use the word regret, but that saddens me, is that we did sadly lose a small number of people across some of our services, and it was only a small number, but even one is one too many, and that's sad. I think we did everything we could to make sure that things like that didn't occur. So we have managed it pretty well, and I don't think there's anything I would have done differently, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, that's good to hear. Perhaps, the most important question in many ways is how have your staff coped? They've been faced with, unimaginable situations, great personal sacrifices, such as extended time away from their families. How have they managed?
Care sector is a very resilient sector, and having been involved in it for over 30 years, it never ceases to amaze me how, when there's a crisis or something happens, how people in care really rise to the challenge. And the staff are just, every single person has done an amazing job. We had situations of people staying away from home, living away from home, not being with their family, living on site. People that stayed in hotels on occasions, people who have themselves been very, very disciplined when they've actually been at work and then gone home, distance themselves away from family and friends. They distance themselves away from going shopping, just for the pure dedication of, I don't want to be that one person that goes into work tomorrow and passes COVID around the service, and people potentially could lose their lives because of that. And we heard so many stories of people who themselves almost put a bubble around themselves just so they could keep going to work, just so they didn't pass on COVID. So, there were so many sacrifices that people made, but we can never, ever say how thankful we are, or enough thank yous to people for what they've done and the extra mile that they've gone and the things they've sacrificed just to keep the people that we provide care and support for safe and well and happy.
Robin, this has been a great insight. Thank you very much. We'll be catching up again to dig a little deeper into the impacts of COVID-19 social care sector soon. Thanks again for your time.